In the beginning, there was chaos, an endless void where the universe had yet to take form. From this formless nothingness arose the primordial beings who would shape the cosmos and bring order to the world. Among them were Gaia, the earth itself, and Uranus, the sky above her, whose union gave birth to the first generations of gods. These early gods were powerful, timeless forces who ruled not through mere might, but by embodying the elements that formed the very fabric of existence. It is easy to think of these ancient stories as mere fables, created to entertain or explain the inexplicable. But what if there is more hidden beneath the surface? What if the true meaning behind these ancient stories has been buried, twisted by time and secrecy, so that we only know the faintest trace of their original significance? Could these myths hold clues to an understanding far deeper than the ancient Greeks themselves ever intended? As the universe began to take shape, the Titans, the children of Gaia, and Uranus emerged. These beings were not gods as we would think of them, but colossal entities who personified powerful forces of nature. They ruled in an age where time had no limit and the earth was still untamed. Among the most famous of these Titans were Cronus, who would one day become the father of the Olympian gods, and Rhea, his sister and wife, who would bear the future rulers of the cosmos. Their reign was long and full of conflict, but the myths told by the ancient Greeks, while rich in meaning and symbolism, also revealed a stark contrast between the gods and the world they governed. On one hand, the myths explained the natural world, the seasons, the weather, the rise and fall of the stars, bringing a sense of order to the chaotic world around them. But on the other hand, these same stories were woven with the complexities of human emotion and ambition, love, jealousy, betrayal, and revenge. It is this duality that makes Greek mythology so powerful. It serves both as a guide to understanding the world and as a means of telling deeply human stories. At the heart of these myths were the Olympian gods, born of the union of Zeus and his siblings after they had overthrown the Titans in a cataclysmic war. Zeus, the god of the sky and thunder, became the king of the gods, ruling from his mighty throne atop Mount Olympus. His brothers, Poseidon and Hades, became rulers of the sea and the underworld respectively, and Hera, his sister and wife, became the queen of the gods, overseeing marriage and family. Each of these deities had their own domain, yet they were not distant or cold. They were very much like the people who worshipped them, full of passion, prone to both acts of kindness and cruelty. The ancient Greeks turned to these gods not just for explanations of the world around them, but also for a sense of connection, as if the gods themselves were larger-than-life versions of the very people who told the tales. Yet, the Greek gods were not benevolent beings in the way many might imagine gods to be. While they had the power to shape the world, they were not immune to the very flaws that plagued humans. The gods fought wars, manipulated mortals, and allowed petty disputes to spiral into destruction. And still, the myths continued, not merely as cautionary tales, but as stories of wonder and awe, revealing the complexities of the human spirit. Greek mythology was deeply embedded in everyday life. Festivals were held in honor of the gods, and temples were erected to house their statues and receive offerings. The myths were not just stories, but the very foundation upon which the ancient Greeks built their understanding of the world. Yet, as we will soon explore, even these sacred tales held darker, more obscure meanings, stories that remained hidden from the public eye, waiting to be rediscovered. With this foundational understanding of Greek mythology, we can begin to see how these myths shaped not only ancient Greek society, but also the course of Western civilization itself. The echoes of these ancient gods and their stories reverberate through literature, art, and philosophy, shaping how we understand not just the world around us, but the mysteries of our own existence. But what happens when we begin to question the stories we've always been told? What if there are layers of meaning, secrets buried within these ancient myths that we've overlooked, perhaps intentionally? These questions will lead us deeper into the darker, more hidden corners of Greek mythology, where the gods were not always the majestic figures we've come to know, but something far more complex, and perhaps even more dangerous. In ancient Greece, myths were not mere stories told to pass the time. They were the bedrock upon which Greek culture stood, the framework through which the Greeks understood themselves and the world around them. To the average citizen, the gods and heroes were not distant or abstract concepts. They were a living, breathing part of everyday life. The myths provided a lens to view the world, one where divine forces shaped the natural order, governed human affairs, and influenced personal destinies. In a society where everything from governance to religion was intertwined with mythological themes, the influence of these stories cannot be overstated. The very structure of Greek governance was shaped by the gods. Zeus, as the ruler of Olympus, was often seen as the ultimate arbiter of justice, embodying the idea that kingship and power should be used for the common good. It was said that laws were inspired by the divine order, and rulers often invoked the gods to justify their decisions, calling on divine will as a reason for their governance. But did the gods really rule the fates of men, or was there something more sinister behind their influence? Myths also played a crucial role in shaping Greek law. The concept of justice was deeply entwined with divine retribution. The gods were seen as the ultimate enforcers of moral and ethical order, and their judgment was often considered final. If a person committed an injustice, they risked angering the gods, which could lead to ruin or destruction. Stories of mortals punished by divine wrath were common, and they served as cautionary tales, emphasizing the consequences of unethical behavior. This constant reminder of the gods' influence helped maintain order, reinforcing the belief that no wrong went unnoticed by the divine. But the myths extended far beyond governance and law. In daily life, they served as a guide to understanding the most profound aspects of existence: birth, love, loss, and death. The stories of Persephone's descent into the underworld, for instance, explain the changing of the seasons, but they also spoke to something deeper: the eternal cycle of life and death, the inevitability of loss, and the possibility of rebirth. In this way, myths were used to make sense of human suffering and mortality, providing both comfort and warning. Yet, it wasn't all noble gods and heroic deeds. Beneath the surface of these widely told stories, there existed darker, more unsettling tales that reflected the complexities of the human condition. The gods, though powerful and revered, were not always benevolent. They were driven by their own passions, jealousies, and desires, often at the expense of mortals who crossed their paths. Take the story of Medusa, a woman turned into a monster by the wrath of Athena, or the tale of Niobe, whose pride led to the destruction of her entire family by the gods. These myths served as a grim reminder that the gods were not always just, and their influence could be both a blessing and a curse. The role of heroes in Greek mythology was similarly complex. While they were often seen as paragons of virtue, their tales were filled with moral ambiguities. Heroes like Heracles and Theseus were celebrated for their strength and bravery, but they were also flawed figures, driven by pride, revenge, and personal ambition. In a sense, these heroes embodied the struggle between human frailty and divine expectation. Their stories, full of both triumphs and tragic flaws, showed that even the greatest among men were not immune to the whims of fate. In religious rituals, myths played a central role, with elaborate ceremonies dedicated to the gods and heroes. Temples were built to honor the gods, and sacrifices were made to win their favor or to appease their anger. The stories were not just symbols, they were vital to the Greeks' understanding of their place in the cosmos. Through ritual and devotion, the Greeks sought to align themselves with the divine order, believing that by doing so, they could ensure prosperity and harmony in their lives. Yet, Beneath the carefully structured and celebrated myths, there was a hidden layer of stories and rituals that were obscured, even erased from the mainstream. These darker, more mysterious aspects of mythology were often kept secret, hidden from the public eye. What could they reveal about the true nature of the gods and their influence on human affairs? Could it be that these ancient stories were not merely moral lessons but tools used to control and manipulate society? As we dig deeper into the power of myth in Greek culture, we will uncover these hidden tales, those that have been forgotten or deliberately erased from the public consciousness. With this understanding, we can begin to see how the ancient Greeks used their myths not just to explain the world, but to shape it. The ancient Greeks were masters of storytelling, crafting myths that captivated and inspired generations. Yet, not all tales were meant for public consumption. Beneath the surface of their most famous legends lay a shadowy world of forbidden myths, stories so dark and controversial that they were deliberately hidden from the masses. What were the ancient Greeks hiding from the public? And why are these myths mysteriously absent from our history books? One such myth is the tale of the Titans, the primordial beings who once ruled the world before the gods of Olympus took over. The Titans were powerful and fearsome, and their reign was marked by ruthless, violent struggles. Most versions of the myth focus on the eventual defeat of the Titans by Zeus and his siblings, but the full story is far darker. The Titans were not mere victims of divine rebellion. They were cast as antagonists in a narrative that, when told in its entirety, paints the gods of Olympus as ruthless conquerors who seized power through bloodshed and betrayal. The most famous story of this cosmic conflict is the Titanomachy, the war between the Titans and the Olympian gods. However, what is often glossed over is the brutality of the gods' actions. For instance, the Titan Atlas, condemned to carry the weight of the heavens for eternity, was punished not for his own crimes, but as a symbol of divine dominance. Similarly, the gods' victory was not just one of strength, but of strategy, deceit, and manipulation. Some myths even suggest that Zeus had a hand in convincing the Titans' allies to betray them, ensuring that the gods would not only win the war but also secure their rule over the cosmos. The myth of Cronus, the Titan who devoured his own children out of fear of being overthrown, offers another chilling glimpse into the darker side of divine rule. While we often hear of Zeus's eventual liberation of his siblings, the truth of Cronus's actions paints him as a tragic figure, a ruler driven to madness by paranoia. Yet, there is no escaping the fact that his actions were born out of the same fears and desires for control that would later characterize the Olympian gods themselves. When Zeus dethroned his father, it was not simply an act of justice, but a brutal usurpation of one tyrant by another. And yet, the stories of the Titans' suffering were often omitted from public retellings, glossed over in favor of focusing on the triumph of the Olympians. Why? Because to reveal too much about the Titans' downfall could have cast the Olympians in an unflattering light. And that was a narrative the people were not meant to see. Then there's the dark and controversial myth of Zeus's numerous transgressions against mortal women. While many of his affairs with goddesses are celebrated, those involving mortal women were often darker in nature. Zeus, in his shape-shifting form, would trick these women into being with him often without their consent. Stories like that of Leda and the Swan, where Zeus transforms into a swan to seduce or assault the mortal queen, were never openly discussed in public forums, for they painted the king of the gods as a figure of fear and domination rather than the wise and just ruler many myths suggest. These stories were deeply unsettling to those who believed that the gods were meant to embody the highest virtues. To dwell too much on the gods' more brutal acts was to risk unsettling the very foundation of Greek society, which was built upon respect for divine authority. But perhaps the most suppressed stories were those dealing with the tragic fates of humanity at the hands of the gods. Consider the myth of Prometheus, who defied Zeus by stealing fire from the gods and giving it to mankind. While Prometheus is often lauded as a hero, His story is deeply tied to the cruel punishment he received for his transgression, an eternal torment where his liver was eaten daily by an eagle. Yet, what is not always highlighted is the grim reality that Zeus punished humanity itself by giving them Pandora's box, unleashing suffering, disease, and despair upon the world. This was a myth that implied not just divine wrath, but the complete and utter destruction of human happiness, an idea that was too dark for many to accept. What is most striking about these forbidden myths is not just their content, but the fact that they were intentionally suppressed over time. The ancient Greeks, with their love of storytelling, clearly understood the power of myth. To reveal these darker stories, to expose the gods as flawed and often malevolent beings, would have undermined the very system that upheld their power. The gods were not just distant figures to be revered, they were part of a carefully constructed narrative that supported social order and morality. To question the gods was to question the foundations of Greek society itself. And so, these forbidden myths, full of betrayal, violence, and immoral acts, were quietly erased from the public consciousness, leaving behind only the sanitized versions of the tales, the stories that celebrated divine justice and moral order. As we uncover these hidden narratives, we begin to see that the true nature of the gods was far more complex and far darker than we were ever told. But why were these myths so dangerous? And what can their suppression tell us about the power of myth in shaping not only society, but the way we view the world itself? With these questions lingering, we now turn to explore the deeper significance behind these suppressed stories, why they were silenced, and what that silence reveals about the gods' true influence over humanity. The gods of ancient Greece were not the all-knowing, benevolent figures that many modern retellings make them out to be. Beneath their majestic appearances and revered titles, they often revealed their darkest sides, sides filled with cruelty, jealousy, and a thirst for power. Could it be that the gods were not our protectors, but our rulers? What if these divine beings were actually the true tyrants of the mythological world, using their immense power not for the greater good, but to control, punish, and manipulate? Zeus, the king of the gods, is often portrayed as a wise and just ruler who maintains order on Mount Olympus and in the world below. But delve deeper into his myth, and you'll find a much darker figure. Zeus's reign was defined not by acts of justice, but by an unending series of infidelities, deceptions, and betrayals. Time and again, he transformed himself into various creatures or objects, becoming a swan, a bull, or even a golden shower to seduce or assault mortal women. His affairs were not mere romantic escapades. They were acts of divine dominance, showing not love but control over the human realm. He took what he desired, and when he was done, he moved on, leaving behind broken lives and often leaving the women with tragic fates. Yet Zeus's actions didn't just hurt mortals, they had far-reaching consequences for his own family. Hera, his wife and sister, was notorious for her jealousy and vengeful nature. While Zeus's many lovers and illegitimate children were the source of her fury, it was the innocent victims of her wrath who bore the brunt of her fury. She cast curses upon Zeus's lovers and their children, one of the most tragic examples being the tale of Heracles. Hera relentlessly tormented him throughout his life, punishing him for the sin of being born from Zeus's infidelity. Her jealousy wasn't just emotional, it was destructive, leaving a trail of suffering wherever she went. In these myths, Hera's revenge isn't about righting wrongs. It's about the exercise of unchecked power and a reminder of what can happen when those in authority are driven by unchecked anger. Then there is Poseidon, god of the sea, whose violent temperament mirrored the destructive nature of the oceans he ruled. Though often depicted as the protector of sailors and the source of life-giving waters, Poseidon's anger was not something to be trifled with. He could summon massive storms, earthquakes, and tidal waves, using his powers not just as a force of nature but as a means of exacting revenge. One myth tells of Poseidon's wrath against Odysseus, whose boastfulness and disrespect towards the god led to the hero's prolonged suffering at sea. Poseidon's fury had no limits, and his retribution was swift and brutal. In the mythological world, Poseidon's anger wasn't just a natural event, it was a calculated, targeted act of divine retribution. Even Athena, the goddess of wisdom, was not immune to the darker aspects of divine rule. Though often seen as the embodiment of reason and fairness, she too was capable of cruelty. The myth of Medusa is one example. Medusa was once a beautiful mortal woman, but after a forced encounter with Poseidon in Athena's temple, Athena punished Medusa by transforming her into a monster. Her hair turned to snakes, and anyone who looked at her would turn to stone. This myth portrays Athena's power not as a tool for justice, but as an act of vengeance against a victim who, by all accounts, was the one wronged. Athena's supposed wisdom and fairness were often clouded by her desire for retribution, and this was a theme that played out time and again in the lives of mortals who angered the gods. These stories, filled with petty vengeance, unchecked power, and divine cruelty, challenge the idealized version of the gods that many have been taught to believe. What becomes clear is that the gods, while powerful and revered, were not benevolent beings seeking the good of humanity. They were powerful rulers who wielded their influence with a sense of entitlement, using mortals as pawns in their divine games of revenge and control. The gods did not serve humanity, they ruled over it, often with terrifying consequences. Yet, in the grand tradition of ancient Greece, these stories were not widely discussed in public discourse. They were buried, rewritten, or sanitized to fit a more acceptable narrative. The gods, in the eyes of the Greeks, needed to remain figures of reverence, not terror. The darker aspects of their nature were hidden in the shadows, left to be uncovered only by those willing to look beyond the surface of the myths. Now that we've pulled back the curtain on the gods' darkest secrets, we can turn our attention to the mortal heroes who often found themselves caught in the gods' webs. These heroes, much like the gods themselves, were flawed and complex figures, often struggling against the very forces that were meant to protect them. Their battles with the gods reveal deeper truths about the nature of power, fate, and the human condition, truths that often remain hidden beneath the grandeur of myth and legend. In Greek mythology, the line between heroism and tragedy is often blurred, and the greatest heroes are sometimes the ones who are most doomed by their fate. Their stories, filled with feats of strength, courage, and determination, are also marred by flaws, divine interference, and inevitable downfalls. Can a hero ever truly be free of the gods? Or are they just pawns in a game far beyond their control? Take Heracles, for example, whose name is synonymous with heroism. Known for his immense strength and valor, Heracles performed the 12 labors tasks that were meant to redeem him for his past sins. Yet, no matter how many victories he won, his life remained marred by tragedy. The very gods who tasked him with his heroic labors also played cruel tricks on him. It was Hera, the goddess of marriage, who instigated the madness that led him to murder his wife and children, an act that haunted him throughout his life. Even his greatest triumphs, such as slaying the Hydra or capturing the Erymanthian boar, were often tainted by the whims of the gods. Heracles, though powerful, was perpetually at the mercy of divine forces, his life a series of heroic achievements that were overshadowed by the gods' cruel manipulation. No matter how hard he fought, he could never escape their influence. In the end, even his death was not of his own making, but a tragic result of a poisoned garment, another twisted gift from the gods. Similarly, Achilles, the greatest of the Greek heroes in the Trojan War, found himself ensnared in the machinations of the gods. Achilles was granted near invincibility, thanks to his mother, Thetis, who dipped him in the river Styx as a child. However, This divine intervention came at a price. The gods had predetermined his fate. Achilles' life was marked by glory on the battlefield, yet he could not escape the inevitable. The gods, particularly Apollo, played key roles in his downfall. Despite his near immunity to mortal weapons, it was the arrow of Paris, guided by Apollo, that struck Achilles in his only vulnerable spot, his heel. This seemingly trivial detail, a result of divine scheming, marked the tragic end of a hero who had once been invincible. Achilles, like Heracles, was a man whose fate was not his own, but a script written by the gods, no matter how much he fought against it. His story, filled with rage, pride, and glory, was ultimately one of loss, not just of life, but of autonomy. Perhaps no hero's story is more tragic and entwined with divine punishment than that of Oedipus. A king who sought to rid his kingdom of a terrible plague, Oedipus's journey is a perfect example of fate's unyielding grip. The gods, in their cruel and mysterious ways, had predestined his downfall from the moment of his birth. It was foretold that he would kill his father and marry his mother, a prophecy that led his parents to abandon him in the wilderness. But fate, as it always does in Greek myth, had a way of ensuring that Oedipus would fulfill the prophecy despite their efforts. He unknowingly killed his father in a chance encounter and later married his mother, Jocasta, bringing about the very horror he sought to avoid. Oedipus's downfall is a direct result of divine prophecy, a cruel twist of fate, where no action could change his doomed future. His quest for truth, his attempt to save his people, ultimately led him to the discovery of his own identity and the devastating realization of his sins. The gods, in their implacable justice, had set him on a path he could not escape. These three heroes, Heracles, Achilles, and Oedipus, are not merely characters of strength and courage. They are tragic figures whose paths are not of their own making. The gods, with their tangled web of favour, vengeance, and fate, are as much a part of their downfall as the hero's own flaws. The hero's strength is overshadowed by the immense power the gods wield over their lives. These stories highlight the duality of heroism in Greek mythology. No matter how brave or skilled a mortal might be, they are never truly free of the gods. The gods may offer gifts of strength or wisdom, but they also weave the fates of mortals in a way that often leads to inevitable tragedy. The mortal victories these heroes achieve are ultimately small in the face of the overwhelming forces that the gods control. As we delve deeper into the roles of the gods and their manipulation of mortals, we begin to see that heroism in the Greek myths is not so much about the triumph of human will, but rather the tension between mortal ambition and divine interference. The gods, in their infinite power, played both the roles of saviors and destroyers, making the distinction between heroism and villainy far more complicated. In this world, no mortal was truly free, and even the greatest heroes were bound by forces beyond their comprehension. Having explored the tragic heroes, we now turn our attention to the darker aspects of the gods' influence, the ways in which their interventions were not just destructive, but often cruel and malicious. In these tales, the gods reveal their true nature. Powerful, yes, but with an inherent tendency toward chaos and punishment. And sometimes, it's not just the heroes who suffer. There are countless mortals caught in the gods' webs, whose stories have remained buried beneath the myths of glory and triumph. In the vast and complex tapestry of Greek mythology, the gods were not merely figures to be revered, they were beings of immense power who demanded more than mere worship. Mortal devotion was not enough. Often, the gods required blood sacrifice, pain, and suffering. What did the gods really demand from mortals? And what happened when the price of devotion was too high? One of the most chilling examples of divine sacrifice comes in the tragic story of Iphigenia, the daughter of King Agamemnon. Before the Greek fleet could sail to Troy, they found themselves trapped in a windless bay, unable to make their journey. The seer Calchas declared that the only way to appease the goddess Artemis and secure favourable winds was for Agamemnon to sacrifice his own daughter. Torn between his duty as a father and his role as a king, Agamemnon chose to offer Iphigenia, sending her to the altar in exchange for the winds that would carry the Greek army to victory. In some versions of the story, Artemis intervenes at the last moment, sparing Iphigenia, but the sacrifice remains a powerful symbol of the god's ruthless demands. It wasn't just the sacrifice itself that was horrific, but the complete disregard for the mortal's life in the name of divine will. Iphigenia's death, or her narrow escape, reveals the chilling reality that, in the world of the gods, the price of devotion was often paid in blood. This dark relationship between the gods and mortals was not limited to one story. Heracles, the greatest of Greek heroes, was no stranger to divine demands for sacrifice. After killing his wife and children in a fit of madness induced by Hera, Heracles was tasked with completing 12 labours as a means of atoning for his sins. These labours were not just heroic feats, they were also trials designed by the gods to humiliate and punish him. Each labour was grueling, dangerous, and often marked by immense personal suffering. Heracles did not simply face challenges out of heroism. He faced them as a consequence of the gods' manipulation. His every victory was tinged with divine cruelty, as if the gods were using him not just as a tool for redemption but as a pawn in their cosmic game. The gods' demand for sacrifice often seemed to serve their need for control. In many cases, mortals were not offered a choice. The gods imposed their will upon human lives with a terrifying indifference to the pain it caused. Consider the myth of Agamemnon's son, Orestes, who was driven to murder his own mother, Clytemnestra, in order to avenge his father's death. This act, while seen as a form of justice, was a direct result of the gods' interference in the lives of the royal family. It was not just about justice, it was a cycle of revenge and violence set into motion by the gods themselves. The gods often manipulated mortals into committing horrific acts, forcing them to sacrifice their own morality and humanity for divine approval. These sacrifices, whether voluntary or not, shaped the Greek worldview in profound ways. Mortals, in their relationship with the gods, were never truly free. The gods ruled over them with an iron grip, dictating their fates, testing their endurance, and demanding blood in return for favour. Mortals could not escape the gods' influence. Every victory was bittersweet, and every triumph came at a cost. This understanding of the gods' demands reflected a worldview where life itself was a fragile thing, subject to the whims of the divine. Death, too, was not always an end, but a transition dictated by the gods. Sacrifice became an integral part of the human condition, an essential, though tragic, means of appeasing the powerful deities who held the fate of all mortals in their hands. This constant theme of sacrifice also highlighted a crucial aspect of ancient Greek society, the complex relationship between life, death, and fate. The gods were seen as both life-givers and life-takers, and their actions often reflected this duality. The mortals who suffered in these myths were not seen as unfortunate victims but as pawns in a cosmic struggle that was far beyond their control. In this sense, sacrifice was not just a religious act, it was a symbol of the inescapable power the gods held over every aspect of life. It was the price mortals paid for their very existence. As we reflect on the sacrifices demanded by the gods, we begin to understand the broader implications of these myths. The constant theme of divine manipulation and mortal suffering raises unsettling questions about fate, free will, and the nature of the universe itself. The gods' demands were not merely a reflection of power, they were a reminder of the fragile and precarious nature of life itself. Mortals were left to navigate a world in which the gods' will was absolute, their demands unyielding, and their cruelty often limitless. Having explored the sacrifices and control the gods had over mortals, we now turn our attention to the cosmic implications of these myths. What do these stories tell us about the larger universe, time, and the human condition? How did these divine manipulations shape not just the lives of individuals, but the worldview of an entire civilization? These questions will guide us into the heart of Greek mythology's deeper meanings. In the beginning, there was only chaos, an infinite void, an emptiness that held no form, no substance. From this primordial abyss, the first sparks of creation flickered into existence. It was not a grand explosion of light and order as we might imagine today, but rather a slow, uncertain emergence of the forces that would shape the universe. What if the universe itself was born from a chaotic void, and every god and mortal is still trapped in its cycles? Out of chaos arose Gaia, the earth, who was both a deity and a personification of the physical land. Gaia's presence, a force that was both nurturing and destructive, marked the beginning of the natural world, mountains, seas, and forests. She was not created by any higher power. Instead, she emerged from the void, as an entity whose existence was intrinsic to the world itself. Alongside, Gaia was Uranus, the sky, who became her consort. Together, they created the first generation of gods, the Titans, colossal beings who ruled the world in its raw, unrefined state. These Titans were not mere deities but representations of fundamental forces. Oceanus, the river that encircled the world, Hyperion, the personification of the sun, and Cronus, who would play a pivotal role in the coming cosmic struggle. From the very start, the cosmos was not a peaceful, harmonious place. It was a realm marked by the constant struggle between the forces of chaos and the forces of order. Even the relationships between the deities themselves were fraught with tension. Uranus, in his fear of the Titans becoming too powerful, locked them away deep within Gaia's womb. This act of suppression sparked a rebellion, led by the youngest of the Titans, Cronus. With the help of his mother, Gaia, Cronus castrated his father Uranus, casting him from the heavens. From the blood of Uranus, the Furies and other terrible beings were born, and with that act of violence, the reign of the Titans began. Yet, even the Titans' rule was not destined to last forever. The seeds of their downfall were sown in their own actions. The gods who followed the Titans, especially Zeus, the son of Cronus, were determined to challenge their reign and reshape the universe according to their own will. The Olympians, born from the union of Cronus and Rhea, represented a new generation, one that sought to overthrow the old order. This struggle culminated in the Titanomachy, the great war between the Olympian gods and the Titans. With the help of his siblings and the ancient beings that sided with him, Zeus led the Olympians to victory. After their triumph, Zeus cast the defeated Titans into Tartarus, the deepest abyss of the underworld, where they were imprisoned for eternity. This battle between the Titans and the Olympians symbolizes a much larger cosmic narrative, the eternal tension between chaos and order, destruction and creation. The overthrow of the Titans by the Olympians was not just a physical conquest, but also an ideological shift. The Titans, who embodied raw, untamed power, represented the chaotic forces of the universe. The Olympians, led by Zeus, sought to impose order on this chaotic world. However, even as the Olympians ascended to power, the remnants of chaos continued to simmer beneath the surface, waiting for an opportunity to rise again. The cyclical nature of this struggle, where order and chaos are constantly at odds, became a central theme in Greek mythology. The gods were not just figures of power, they were also symbols of this eternal battle, and their lives reflected the broader forces of the universe. What is perhaps most striking about the Greek creation myth is that it does not depict the cosmos as a static or peaceful place. Instead, the universe is portrayed as an ever-evolving, dynamic system, where the forces of chaos and order are in constant flux. The gods themselves are part of this cosmic struggle, each one embodying different aspects of the natural world and the forces that govern it. The rise and fall of the Titans, followed by the ascendancy of the Olympians, demonstrates that nothing in the universe is fixed. Power is in constant motion, as are the forces that shape the world. This worldview, deeply ingrained in the ancient Greek psyche, saw the cosmos not as a harmonious whole, but as a battleground where creation and destruction were perpetually entwined. As we consider the origin of the Greek cosmos, we begin to see how the forces of chaos and creation shaped not only the structure of the universe, but also the lives of the gods and mortals who inhabited it. The gods, in their constant struggle for dominance, wielded their power not just to shape the physical world, but to manipulate the very essence of time, fate, and reality itself. In the following sections, we will explore how these forces of chaos and order manifested in the gods' interactions with time, and how their manipulation of time became a weapon used in the eternal struggle for control over the universe. With this foundational understanding of the Greek creation myth and the forces that shape the cosmos, we now turn our attention to the deeper implications of this myth, the ways in which the gods interacted with time and wielded it as a tool to maintain or disrupt the cosmic balance. In the vast expanse of Greek mythology, the gods were not merely creators of the cosmos, they were its masters, shaping not only the world around them but also the very fabric of time itself. Time in their hands became another weapon, a force they could bend and twist to suit their will. What if time itself was a weapon? Could the gods have trapped us in a never-ending cycle, doomed to repeat the past? One of the most striking examples of divine manipulation of time comes from the figure of Kronos, the god of time. As the leader of the Titans, Kronos ruled over time in its most terrifying and all-consuming form. His power was not just over seasons or the passage of years, it was an unyielding force, a brutal march that could not be stopped. But it was also a force that the gods could manipulate. Kronos, fearful of a prophecy that foretold his overthrow by his own children, took extreme measures to control time and fate. He devoured his children as soon as they were born, trying to prevent the inevitable cycle of his own downfall. However, in a twist of fate, Zeus, his youngest son, escaped this fate and eventually led the Olympians in their war against the Titans. This act of manipulation of time by Kronos is more than just a tale of parental cruelty. It's a reflection of how time, once controlled, could be used to trap mortals and immortals alike in a loop of fear and domination. Zeus, inheriting the throne after his victory over Kronos, also used his dominion over time and seasons to shape the world. The cycles of the seasons themselves were influenced by his actions. In one myth, he punished Demeter by taking away her daughter Persephone, causing her mother's grief to create the barren winter months. The return of Persephone to her mother in the spring signified the rebirth of life on Earth, a direct manipulation of time that tied the very nature of existence to divine will. In this way, Zeus didn't just control the natural world, he controlled its cycles, bending the flow of time to mirror his desires and actions. The changing of the seasons was not simply a natural occurrence. It was a manifestation of divine will, an ever-repeating cycle tied to the gods' manipulation of time. But perhaps the most chilling representation of time's cyclical nature is found in the story of Sisyphus, the mortal king doomed to an eternal punishment. Sisyphus was condemned by Zeus to roll a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down every time he neared the top, forcing him to start the task again and again for all eternity. This myth reflects a key aspect of Greek cosmology, the idea of eternal recurrence, where time is not a linear progression but a never-ending loop. Sisyphus's plight is symbolic of the hopelessness that time can impose, a cycle of futility that mirrors the repetitive nature of existence itself. It also speaks to the idea of divine punishment, where the gods, with their control over time, can entrap mortals in an endless loop, ensuring that they are never free from their fate. The manipulation of time by the gods is not merely a tool for creating cosmic balance or exerting power over mortals. It represents their complete dominance over the very structure of existence. Mortals, trapped in the gods' cycles of manipulation, were often subject to fate's whims, their lives marked by patterns that they could neither escape nor alter. In this way, time becomes a means by which the gods maintain control. Whether through the slow march of seasons or the eternal punishment of Sisyphus, the gods were able to shape the very passage of time to reflect their will, ensuring that mortals remained in perpetual servitude to their whims. This cyclical nature of time also suggests that the concept of fate in Greek mythology was deeply intertwined with time itself. The gods, in their manipulation of time, not only shaped the events of the mortal world but also determined when those events would happen. Time, therefore, was not an abstract concept. It was a tangible force, one that could be bent, twisted, and shaped by the gods to bring about their desired outcomes. Whether it was the changing of the seasons or the endless suffering of Sisyphus, time was always at the mercy of divine will. As we consider the gods' ability to control and manipulate time, we begin to understand that their power extended far beyond simple physical domination. They wielded time as a weapon, shaping the very fabric of existence. But this manipulation of time was not just about control, it was about fate, the unyielding force that dictated the lives of mortals. The gods, by controlling time, ensured that mortals were always bound to the cycles they had created, locked in an eternal struggle between fate and free will. With this understanding of the gods' control over time, we now turn our attention to the larger cosmic structure of Greek mythology. The interplay between gods, mortals, and time reveals the complex nature of the universe and the divine manipulation that shaped both the physical and metaphysical realms. How did the gods interact with each other? And how did their relationships shape the fate of mortals and the very fabric of existence? These questions will lead us to a deeper understanding of the cosmic order that governed the Greek world. The Titans, the ancient gods who predate the Olympians, represented the raw, untamed forces of nature chaos personified. They were the first beings to emerge from the primordial void, ruling a world that was still in its infancy, unformed and formless. Theirs was a reign marked by power, but also by disorder. The Titans were beings of immense strength and primordial energy, but they lacked the governance and structure that would later define the Olympians. Their rule was a chaotic, almost anarchic force, a reflection of the natural world before it was shaped into something recognizable. The most prominent of these Titans was Kronos, the god of time, whose own reign was one marked by fear and violence. His infamous act of swallowing his children, driven by a prophecy that foretold his downfall, illustrates the very essence of the Titan's chaotic nature. Kronos, in his desperate attempt to maintain control over his realm, imprisoned his own progeny, believing that by doing so, he could preserve his rule and prevent the inevitable cosmic shift. This act of self-preservation only accelerated the chaos, setting the stage for his eventual downfall. It wasn't just a personal tragedy for Kronos, it was a symbolic moment in Greek myth, illustrating the destructive power of fear and disorder. The Olympians, however, were destined to bring an end to the Titan's reign. Zeus, the youngest son of Kronos, was the key figure in this cosmic struggle. The battle between the Titans and the Olympians, known as the Titanomachy, was more than just a mythological event. It was a cosmic struggle for control over the universe itself. The Titans, with their vast power, represented chaos forces that were too wild, too unpredictable to bring order to the cosmos. The Olympians, led by Zeus, represented a new era of divine rule, an era of order, governance, and balance. What if the struggle for cosmic control was more than just a battle of gods? Could it have been a metaphor for the clash between chaos and order that still defines our world today? The Titanomachy wasn't merely about two factions of gods fighting for supremacy. It was about the transformation of the universe itself. With the victory of the Olympians, a new era was born, one that emphasized order, structure, and the imposition of divine will upon the world. Zeus, the god of the sky and ruler of the Olympians, would usher in this new age by establishing a firm rule over the heavens and the earth. His victory over Kronos marked the shift from primal disorder to the cosmic order that would govern not only the heavens but also the mortal realm. The fall of Kronos, symbolizing the triumph of the Olympians, is more than just a mythological tale of father against son. It is a powerful metaphor for the ongoing tension between chaos and order, a theme that reverberates throughout Greek mythology and, by extension, the world itself. The Titans, in their quest for dominion over the cosmos, represented forces that were beyond control, fierce and unpredictable. The Olympians, by contrast, embodied a more structured and strategic form of power, one that imposed control over the natural world and the flow of time. Zeus's rise to power, in many ways, marked the beginning of a new cosmic era, one in which the gods did not simply exist as chaotic forces of nature, but as rulers who could shape the universe. The Olympians sought to establish divine governance, creating laws, rituals, and moral codes that shaped both the cosmos and mortal society. Zeus's reign was characterized not only by his strength, but also by his ability to impose order on the world. Under his rule, the seasons followed their course, the oceans remained within their bounds, and the very fabric of time itself was bent to his will. This shift from chaos to order was not a simple or peaceful one. It came at great cost, with battles fought not only between gods but also between the old world of disorder and the new world of divine rule. The Olympian victory over the Titans was a necessary, yet violent, transformation, setting the stage for the structured cosmic order that would dominate the world. In this new order, the gods were not just forces of nature, they were sovereigns who governed the heavens and the earth, wielding their power to maintain balance and control. With the fall of the Titans and the rise of Zeus, the Greek cosmos was forever changed. The chaos that once defined the universe was replaced with a divine order that would dictate the lives of gods and mortals alike. Yet, even within this new structure, the echoes of chaos remained. The Titans may have been defeated, but their influence lingered, reminding the gods and mortals that the struggle for cosmic control was never truly over. The balance between order and chaos, structure and freedom, would continue to shape the universe for eternity. As we explore the rise of Zeus and the Olympians, we begin to understand how their victory over the Titans not only marked the beginning of a new cosmic era, but also set the stage for how the gods would interact with the universe and time itself. The Olympians, with their newfound power, would soon begin to shape not just the cosmos but the very fate of mortals, wielding their authority to maintain order on both a cosmic and personal scale. In Greek mythology, fate, Moira, was not just a concept, it was an immutable force that governed the lives of gods and mortals alike. The Moirai, or the Fates, were three goddesses who wielded absolute power over destiny. Clotho spun the thread of life, Lachesis measured its length, and Atropos, the eldest, held the power to cut the thread, thus ending a life. These goddesses, beyond even the gods themselves, represented the unalterable nature of fate. They were the ultimate arbiters of life and death, and their decisions were inescapable. What if free will is nothing more than an illusion? Could our lives truly be controlled by a force we cannot see? This question lies at the heart of Greek mythology's understanding of fate. In many stories, even the mightiest gods and heroes were powerless against the Moirai. While gods like Zeus were depicted as powerful rulers of the heavens, their omnipotence did not extend to the control of fate. The gods themselves were often subject to the will of the fates, forced to follow a cosmic plan that no one could alter. Take the tragic tale of Oedipus, whose life was predestined from the moment of his birth. It was foretold that he would kill his father and marry his mother. In an attempt to prevent this fate, his parents abandoned him, but their actions did nothing to change the outcome. Oedipus, unaware of his true parentage, fulfilled the prophecy despite all efforts to thwart it. His story reflects the Greek belief that no matter how much mortals try to fight or alter their fate, they are powerless to escape it. The Moirai had already spun the threads of his life, and no amount of resistance could alter what was destined to occur. The concept of fate is tied closely to another important theme in Greek mythology, hubris. Hubris, or excessive pride, was considered one of the greatest sins a mortal could commit. It often manifested as a defiance of the gods or the belief that one could escape their fate. The Greeks believed that those who attempted to surpass the natural order of the universe were punished in the most severe ways. Hubris was viewed as a challenge to the cosmic order, an attempt to usurp the power of the gods and the fates themselves. The story of Niobe is a poignant example of how hubris leads to tragic consequences. Niobe, the queen of Thebes, boasted of her superior motherhood, claiming that she had more children than the goddess Leto, who had only 2. In her pride, Niobe mocked Leto, saying that she was a better mother and deserved more respect. The gods, angered by her arrogance, sent Apollo and Artemis to punish her. Apollo killed all of Niobe's sons, and Artemis killed her daughters. This brutal retribution was not just a punishment for her pride, it was a direct consequence of her attempt to defy the natural order, the fate set forth by the gods and the Moirai. The idea that fate is an unalterable force that no one can escape is central to the Greek worldview. It presents a universe where every action, every decision, is part of a larger, predetermined plan. Mortals, despite their free will, were often unable to avoid their fates, and the gods, while powerful, were also bound by the same cosmic forces. The Moirai's control over destiny ensured that no one, no matter their power, could change the outcome of their lives. In this sense, fate is an inescapable web, a force that connects everything in the universe to an unchangeable cosmic plan. While the Moirai represented the inevitability of fate, Greek mythology also presented the tension between fate and free will. Mortals could make their own choices, but these choices were often limited by the forces of destiny. In many myths, the more a mortal tried to defy fate, the more they were forced into its grasp. It was as though the fates revelled in their power, ensuring that every effort to escape fate only brought the mortal closer to their doom. In the end, Greek mythology suggests that fate is not just a predetermined sequence of events, it is a cosmic force that governs the lives of all beings. The gods themselves, despite their immense power, were not immune to its influence. The Moirai were the true rulers of the universe, and their decisions were final. The stories of heroes, kings, and even gods are often marked by their struggle with fate, showing how the forces of destiny shape the very fabric of the Greek cosmos. Having explored how fate shapes the lives of mortals and gods, we now turn our attention to how the gods manipulated these forces for their own agendas. The Moirai might have controlled fate, but the gods, with their power, often bent the forces of destiny to suit their desires, shaping the world in ways that could lead to both triumph and tragedy. The manipulation of fate became a tool for the gods to assert their authority and maintain their cosmic rule. In Greek mythology, time was not merely a linear progression of events, it was a force to be manipulated, bent, and weaponized by the gods. The gods, with their eternal existence and cosmic power, seem to exist beyond the comprehension of mortal time. Yet, despite their timelessness, their actions often set into motion cycles of destruction, rebirth, and repetition, suggesting that time itself might not flow in a simple straight line. What if time is not linear, but cyclical. Could the gods have shaped time itself to trap us in an endless loop? The story of Zeus's overthrow of his father, Kronos, is one of the most iconic examples of how the gods use time to assert their dominance. Kronos, as the god of time, ruled over the universe with an iron grip, but he was also bound by the prophecy that his own children would overthrow him. In a desperate attempt to prevent this, Kronos swallowed each of his children upon their birth. However, his son Zeus escaped this fate, and after growing strong, led the Olympian gods in a brutal war against the Titans, culminating in their defeat and imprisonment. By overthrowing Kronos, Zeus not only ended the reign of his father, but also symbolized the shift from the chaotic, predestined forces of time to a new order, one that he would control. But this victory wasn't simply about dethroning a father, it was about mastering time itself. Zeus's actions disrupted the natural order set by Kronos, and in doing so, he altered the very fabric of the universe. Time, which had been ruled by the Titans, now fell under the dominion of Zeus and the Olympians. Yet, in doing so, Zeus also set into motion the cyclical nature of time, one that would repeat itself in various forms throughout history. This cycle, marked by the overthrow of one god by another, became a recurring theme in Greek mythology. Zeus's victory did not mark the end of time's manipulation. Rather, it suggested that time itself was subject to the whims of the gods. It was an ongoing process, an eternal loop of change, destruction, and rebirth. The cyclical nature of time is also evident in the myth of the Golden Age, which existed under the reign of the Titans. This was a time of peace and prosperity, where humans lived without fear of death and the gods were benevolent. But when the Olympians took over, this age came to an end. The fall of the Titans marked the end of one era and the beginning of another, a new age characterized by struggle, war, and the unpredictable whims of the gods. The myth of the Golden Age reflects the idea that history, as shaped by the gods, is marked by cycles of prosperity and decline, of peace followed by conflict. These cycles are not accidental. They are governed by the actions of the gods, who manipulate time to create the conditions for these shifts. This cyclical nature of time also raises unsettling questions about whether history itself is doomed to repeat. If the gods have the power to control time, then are we all, as mortals, trapped in a cosmic loop? In many myths, the same patterns of events repeat themselves. Gods rise and fall, wars are fought, and civilizations are destroyed, only to be rebuilt again. The story of Heracles, who performs his 12 labors as a form of penance, mirrors this repetitive cycle of struggle, redemption, and punishment. Each of his labors, though victorious, was a reminder that even the mightiest heroes were subject to the cyclical nature of time. No matter how much they overcame, they were always bound to face another trial, another challenge, another cycle. What is truly disturbing about this idea is the possibility that time is not just a backdrop for the gods' actions, but a weapon in their hands. The gods' ability to manipulate time, whether by shifting the seasons, creating eras of peace or chaos, or causing entire generations to repeat the same mistakes, suggests that time itself is not a natural force, but something that can be controlled and used to shape the very fabric of the universe. In this context, the idea of history repeating itself becomes more than just a metaphor. It becomes a cosmic reality, orchestrated by the gods, who use time to enforce their will upon both mortals and immortals alike. Having explored the gods' manipulation of time, we now shift our focus to the untold stories of certain mythical creatures and figures who were erased from popular retellings. These forgotten stories, tales of beings whose fates were either obscured or deliberately erased, represent the hidden forces of the cosmos. As we delve into these stories, we'll uncover the forgotten players in the eternal struggle between order and chaos, time and fate, and the gods' ongoing manipulation of the world. In the grand tapestry of Greek mythology, Countless heroes, gods, and creatures have been immortalized in stories passed down through generations. Yet, lurking in the shadows of these well-known tales, there exists a host of forgotten creatures, beasts, hybrids, and enigmatic figures whose roles were often overshadowed or even erased from the popular narrative. What happened to the monsters and creatures that should have been central to the myth? Were they erased for a reason? Take, for instance, the terrifying Chimera, a fire-breathing hybrid creature with the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and the tail of a serpent. It is a creature of chaos, an embodiment of nature's unpredictable power. The Chimera was not just a simple monster to be defeated. It represented an unholy union of animals, a blending of forces that nature itself might find abominable. Yet, in modern retellings, it is often reduced to a mere obstacle for heroes to conquer, rather than the symbolic force of primordial destruction that it once was. The Chimera's defeat at the hands of Bellerophon is a tale of triumph, but it also echoes a deeper fear, the fear of forces too powerful and chaotic to be contained. Why, then, does this creature's symbolic importance often go unnoticed? Its primal, disordered nature might have made it a dangerous figure to emphasize in stories meant to uphold divine order. Then there is Echidna, the mother of many of the most fearsome monsters in Greek mythology, including the Hydra, Cerberus, and the Nemean lion. Echidna herself was often described as a hideous creature, half woman, half serpent, who lived in a cave, far from the civilized world of the gods and mortals. She represents the intersection of fertility and danger, giving birth to creatures that terrorized the heroes of Greek myth. Yet, despite her integral role in creating some of the most iconic monsters in mythology, Echidna remains largely absent from modern retellings. While her offspring are celebrated and feared, the figure who gave birth to them is often overlooked, erased from popular mythology. Could it be that Echidna, as a figure of both motherhood and monstrosity, was too ambiguous to fit into the more streamlined and moral narratives that the Olympians came to represent? Another fascinating, yet forgotten, creature is the Harpies. Often depicted as winged women with the faces of birds, they were known for stealing food from the unfortunate souls they tormented. While they are seen as menacing figures in some myths, they are also symbols of the unbearable consequences of divine punishment. The most famous of the Harpies are the ones who plagued Phineus, a seer cursed to be tormented by them for revealing the secrets of the gods. But even in these more notable instances, the Harpies are relegated to roles of annoyance and pestilence, rather than being seen as embodiments of divine wrath or fate itself. They represented a force of inevitable retribution, but the depth of their symbolism was often stripped away as the focus shifted toward the heroes who fought against them. The Harpies were erased from the central narrative, replaced by more heroic figures, their essence reduced to mere antagonism, rather than representing a deeper cosmic force. The reasons these creatures were erased from history are complex. For one, many of them were symbols of forces that threatened the stability and order of the world, chaotic forces that the gods and heroes had to subdue. In a world where divine order and heroic triumph were central, monsters like the Chimera or Echidna could not be allowed to overshadow the gods' victories. Their chaotic, destructive natures were far too threatening to be celebrated or preserved in their entirety. Moreover, some of these creatures represented the darker sides of human nature, our fears, our capacity for destruction, and the primal aspects of existence that we often wish to forget. The role of these creatures was often to challenge the status quo, to represent forces that could not be easily controlled, and in doing so, they mirrored the fears of a society trying to impose structure upon a chaotic world. The gods, with their need to maintain control over both mortal and divine realms, would not have wanted to elevate creatures that embodied the very chaos they were trying to suppress. In erasing these figures from history, they effectively removed symbols of the disorder that the gods, and by extension the Greek worldview, sought to overcome. As we uncover these forgotten creatures, we are reminded that mythology is as much about what is omitted as it is about what is told. These creatures, with their complexity and primal energy, reveal a side of Greek mythology that was once crucial but has since been buried under layers of divine triumph and heroic conquest. Their erasure from the popular narratives raises unsettling questions about which aspects of mythology have been deliberately hidden and why. Having explored the forgotten creatures of Greek mythology, we now turn to the human figures who have similarly been erased or overlooked. These mortals, whose stories once held great significance, were pushed into the shadows in favour of more conventional heroes or gods. In uncovering their stories, we gain a deeper understanding of how the myths of ancient Greece have been shaped, and sometimes intentionally altered to serve a particular narrative. In the world of Greek mythology, not all heroes were immortalized in the grand narratives passed down through history. Some mortals, though deeply entangled in the mythic cycle, were overshadowed by gods and the more celebrated figures of ancient legend. Their stories, often dark and tragic, were erased or minimized in favor of idealized tales of heroic triumph and divine favor. Why were some heroes forgotten, their stories wiped clean from the annals of time? What truths were too dangerous to share? One such figure is Jason the leader of the Argonauts. While his quest for the Golden Fleece is well known, his personal story remains largely unexplored. Jason's journey was marked not just by heroic feats, but by betrayal, sacrifice, and a complex relationship with fate. His marriage to Medea, a powerful sorceress, ended in tragedy after he abandoned her for a political alliance with the Princess of Corinth. Medea, in her vengeful rage, murdered their children in retaliation. Yet, in many retellings of Jason's story, his flaws and the consequences of his actions are often downplayed or glossed over. Why? Jason's abandonment of Medea and his eventual downfall were uncomfortable truths that did not fit neatly into the heroic mold of clean victories. His tale, one of manipulation, moral ambiguity, and the collapse of familial bonds, was too complex, too dark for the idealized heroics of ancient Greece. Atalanta **2 was a hero whose legacy has often been relegated to the background. Known for her speed, strength, and unmatched prowess in battle, Atalanta was one of the few female figures in Greek mythology who fought alongside the greatest heroes. Her participation in the hunt for the Caledonian boar and her role in the Argonauts' adventures highlight her importance. Yet, despite her incredible abilities, Atalanta's story is ultimately overshadowed by the patriarchal structure of Greek mythology. In the myth of her marriage, Atalanta is forced into a contest where suitors must beat her in a foot race, with the penalty for losing being death. She is eventually won over by Hippomenes who uses golden apples to distract her during the race, ensuring his victory. After their marriage, Atalanta and Hippomenes are punished by the gods for their actions, transformed into lions. Atalanta, a fierce and independent hero, ends her tale not as a conqueror, but as a victim of divine retribution. The inclusion of this punishment, her transformation into a lion, served to diminish her power, reinforcing the cultural narrative that women who defied social expectations must be punished. Then there is the tragic story of Amphion, Zethus, twin brothers whose tale is one of divine intervention, but also of personal failure. They were the sons of Zeus and Antiope, and their story is marked by the building of Thebes, the city they founded. Amphion, with the help of the gods, magically made stones move to build the walls of the city. His brother Zethus, on the other hand, used brute force to carry stones. However, the brother's tale is often overlooked in favour of more famous figures like Oedipus or Heracles. Their story ends tragically with their separation and the eventual suicide of Amphion, a reminder that even God's children were not immune to failure and tragedy. The fate of Amphion and Zethus, full of ambition, divine help, and sorrow, offered a darker view of heroism and was overshadowed by the more palatable success stories of heroes like Heracles or Theseus. Why were these figures and their stories sidelined? Perhaps because their tales did not conform to the idealized heroic narratives that were celebrated in ancient Greece. These forgotten heroes often grappled with moral complexities, made mistakes, or fell victim to forces beyond their control traits that contradicted the traditional notion of heroism. In the Greek worldview, heroes were meant to exemplify strength, virtue, and divine favor, qualities that made them figures to be admired and emulated. But the stories of Jason, Atalanta, and others questioned these ideals, showing that even heroes could be flawed, even heroes could fail. The erasure of these figures may have been influenced by cultural and political forces. The stories of heroes like Jason, whose actions led to tragedy, or Atalanta, whose defiance of gender norms could be seen as a challenge to the social order, were stories that might have undermined the societal values of the time. In a culture where the ideal hero was a figure who adhered to social and moral expectations, the more complex tales of these forgotten heroes might have been viewed as dangerous or subversive. In the end, these forgotten mortals reveal an important truth. The stories of heroism and the mythic past are not just shaped by the gods, but by the narratives that society chooses to elevate. The erasure of these figures from mainstream retellings serves as a reminder that history, whether mythological or real, is often written by those who have the power to shape it. These forgotten heroes, with their dark legacies, offer a different, more nuanced view of what it means to be heroic, and perhaps suggest that the stories we know are not the whole truth. Having explored the forgotten creatures and mortals of Greek mythology, we now move forward to the philosophical implications of these myths. What do they reveal about human nature, the struggle between fate and free will, and the forces that govern our existence? These questions will guide us into a deeper understanding of the universal themes present in Greek mythology and their relevance to our own lives. Greek mythology, while brimming with fantastical gods, epic heroes, and larger-than-life creatures, is also steeped in profound philosophical lessons that transcend the ancient world. These myths are not just entertaining tales of divine power or heroic deeds. They are reflections on the human experience, the nature of existence, and the inevitable realities of life and death. What if the ancient myths were not just stories, but a roadmap for understanding our own existence? Could they hold the keys to life itself? Take, for example, the journey of Odysseus in Homer's times Odyssey*. At its core, the tale is not just about a man trying to return home after a long war. It is a reflection on the very nature of perseverance, suffering, and human resilience. Odysseus's journey is filled with obstacles that seem insurmountable: encounters with the Cyclops, the seductive sirens, the wrath of Poseidon, and yet he persists, driven by a singular goal: returning to his home and his family. His suffering, and the emotional and physical toll it takes on him, mirrors the human condition. The Times Odyssey Times teaches that life is inherently uncertain and full of adversity, but the key to survival, both literally and metaphorically, is perseverance. The idea that Odysseus's journey never truly ends, that each step forward is part of a larger, ongoing quest for meaning, is an allegory for the human pursuit of purpose amidst chaos. But Odysseus's journey also introduces another important lesson: the inevitability of suffering and the necessity of embracing it. The gods may intervene in his path, but in the end, Odysseus is always responsible for his actions. This reflection on human agency versus divine fate underscores a core existential question: how much control do we really have over our own lives? And what does it mean to truly live in the face of inevitable suffering? The Times Odyssey asterisk, then, isn't just about a hero overcoming external enemies. It's about the internal battles we all face, the struggle to endure, to learn from our mistakes, and to keep going even when the world seems against us. Other myths also grapple with the nature of existence and death. The story of Orpheus and his descent into the underworld to reclaim his wife, Eurydice, is a poignant meditation on loss, love, and the fragility of life. Orpheus, armed only with his music, ventures into the realm of death itself, symbolizing the power of human will and emotion to transcend the boundaries of life. Yet, his failure to bring Eurydice back to the mortal world, when he turns to look at her before they reach the surface, is a profound reminder of the limits of human power and the inevitability of death. The myth suggests that even love and artistic beauty, when confronted with the finality of death, are powerless. There is an undeniable truth in this myth. No matter how much we strive, how much we fight, we cannot escape the ultimate fate that awaits us all. It teaches the importance of accepting the impermanence of life and the acceptance of mortality, a lesson echoed throughout many other myths. Greek myths also served as moral and existential guides. Prometheus, the Titan who defied Zeus to bring fire to humanity, is one of the most famous examples of a mythic figure whose actions challenged the status quo. Prometheus's gift of fire represents knowledge, innovation, and progress, the pursuit of enlightenment. However, this gift comes at a great cost, as Prometheus is punished by Zeus, bound to a rock where an eagle eats his liver every day. This myth teaches the value of self-sacrifice in the pursuit of higher ideals, but also warns of the consequences of challenging divine authority. It asks, is knowledge worth the pain it may bring? Prometheus embodies the tension between the quest for wisdom and the dangers that come with it, presenting an eternal struggle between personal sacrifice and the desire for understanding. Another example of Greek mythology's existential lessons can be found in the myth of Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to roll back down again each time he nears the top. His eternal struggle is often interpreted as a metaphor for the futility of human existence, the repetitive nature of human endeavors, the idea that no matter how much we strive, we never truly reach the summit. Yet, in this seemingly hopeless task, some see a deeper truth. Sisyphus's persistence, his unyielding commitment to continuing his task despite the futility of it, reflects a central tenet of the human experience: the ability to find meaning and purpose even in the face of absurdity. The philosopher Albert Camus famously interpreted this myth as illustrating the absurd nature of life, but suggested that the struggle itself is what gives life meaning. Sisyphus, in his eternal labor, is not defeated by the futility of his task, but continues on with relentless determination. These myths do not offer simple answers to life's profound questions, but instead encourage reflection on the deeper aspects of existence. They teach that life is not without hardship, that death is inevitable, and that the pursuit of knowledge and meaning comes at a price. Yet, they also suggest that it is in our response to these challenges, our ability to persevere, to find purpose in suffering, and to accept our mortality that we find what it means to truly live. The lessons of Greek mythology are not confined to the ancient world. They resonate with us today. These myths continue to provide profound philosophical insights into the human condition, offering guidance on how to navigate the uncertainties of life and the inevitability of death. They serve as a mirror to our own existence, inviting us to reflect on our choices, our struggles, and our search for meaning. And in this reflection, we may discover that the answers to life's deepest questions have always been hidden within these ancient stories. Having examined the philosophical truths embedded within these myths, we will now explore their enduring legacy. How have these ancient tales shaped modern culture, and how do they continue to influence our understanding of history and existence today? The lessons of the Greek gods and heroes are far from obsolete. They remain a touchstone for the human experience. The ancient myths of Greece have left an indelible mark on modern culture, influencing everything from literature and art to films and pop culture. Far from being relegated to the distant past, these stories continue to resonate today, providing a rich source of inspiration and a framework for understanding power, fate, heroism, and sacrifice. How have these ancient myths been twisted and adapted to fit modern narratives? What truths are still hidden beneath the surface today? One of the most striking examples of Greek mythology's enduring influence is in Hollywood films. Movies like Time's Clash of the Titans **300**, and Time's Wonder Woman times draw heavily from Greek mythological figures, reinterpreting them for contemporary audiences. In Time's Wonder Woman **, for example, the character of Diana is the daughter of Zeus, a modern adaptation of the divine heroes of Greek mythology. However, these modern adaptations often alter key elements of the original myths, focusing on action and spectacle while downplaying the philosophical or moral complexities of the stories. The Time's Clash of the Titans Times films, for instance, reimagine Perseus's struggle to defeat the Kraken as a larger-than-life adventure, transforming a deeply symbolic story about human mortality and divine power into an action-packed narrative. These adaptations show how the stories have been tailored to fit modern tastes, emphasizing heroism, triumph, and action, while sometimes stripping away the deeper philosophical questions about fate and the nature of the gods. Yet, the fundamental themes of Greek mythology remain highly relevant. The concept of time's hubris **, the idea that mortals who overstep their bounds and challenge the gods will face divine retribution, is a recurring theme in modern stories, especially in the context of ambition and power. The tragic stories of heroes like ***, Icarus ***, or ***, Prometheus ***, serve as timeless warnings about the consequences of seeking power or knowledge beyond one's grasp. Modern stories, be it the rise and fall of corporate tycoons, political leaders, or the obsession with technological advancement, echo the same lessons found in these ancient myths. Whether in literature, film, or everyday life, the fear of overreach and the inevitable consequences of hubris continue to shape narratives and influence societal values. Heroism, too, remains a central theme. The modern superhero genre, with its iconic characters like Superman, Batman, and the Marvel Universe's array of gods and heroes, is rooted in the ancient Greek concept of heroism. These contemporary heroes, much like their ancient counterparts, are often defined by their struggle against overwhelming odds, their internal flaws, and their sacrifices for a greater cause. Characters like Time's Thor **, a Norse god adapted into the Marvel franchise, carry echoes of ancient Greek gods such as Zeus, figures of immense power, but also of profound vulnerability. Today's heroes are still seen as reflections of human nature, grappling with morality, responsibility, and their own limitations, just as Greek heroes did in the ancient myths. However, these modern interpretations also raise interesting questions about how myths have been altered or obscured to fit changing cultural values. In the past, certain elements of Greek mythology were either suppressed or downplayed to align with prevailing social norms. For instance, the complexities of the gods' relationships with mortals, often full of jealousy, vengeance, and manipulation, were frequently glossed over in favor of more palatable portrayals of divine justice and heroism. Take the myth of *** Medusa ***. For example, in the original story, Medusa is punished by Athena for being violated by Poseidon, a deeply problematic aspect of the myth that modern adaptations often fail to address fully. More recent retellings of Medusa's story, like in Time's Percy Jackson Times or in various feminist reinterpretations, seek to reclaim her narrative, casting her as a victim rather than a villain, revealing how myths evolve to reflect contemporary understandings of gender, power, and injustice. Similarly, the myth of Pandora's box **, which traditionally portrays Pandora as the source of humanity's woes, has been reinterpreted in more recent times as a story about curiosity, agency, and the consequences of the gods' manipulation of mortals. Where once Pandora's actions were seen as the root cause of suffering, modern retellings often focus on the themes of hope that remain inside the box, suggesting that even in the face of adversity, there is still the possibility of redemption and resilience. This shift in interpretation speaks to a broader societal shift, where agency and the pursuit of knowledge are no longer simply seen as dangerous, but as vital aspects of the human experience. These modern interpretations, however, do not erase the underlying truths embedded within the myths. While the cultural context may shift, the deeper themes of Greek mythology, fate, the fragility of life, the complexities of human nature, and the eternal struggle for meaning remain central to the stories we tell today. The myths still hold power because they address universal human concerns that transcend time: the search for purpose, the inevitability of death, the consequences of our actions, and the tension between divine will and human agency. In this way, Greek myths are not just relics of the past, but living stories that continue to shape our understanding of existence. They have been adapted, transformed, and sometimes obscured, but their core messages endure. By revisiting these ancient tales through a modern lens, we are reminded that the truths they contain about power, love, fate, and sacrifice are just as relevant today as they were in ancient Greece. Having explored the enduring legacy of Greek mythology in modern culture, we now conclude our journey by revisiting the hidden truths and mysteries that still surround these ancient stories. What secrets remain buried beneath the surface of the myths? And how do they continue to shape our understanding of mythology, culture, and existence itself? These final revelations promise to illuminate the continuing relevance of the myths and the deeper forces at play in our lives. Greek mythology, despite its vast body of stories and intricate pantheon of gods, heroes, and creatures, still holds mysteries that remain unsolved, even after centuries of study. The more we learn about these ancient myths, the more questions arise. Are we truly ready to understand the full scope of these myths, or are there pieces of the puzzle that will forever remain hidden? One of the most compelling aspects of Greek mythology is the constant sense of ambiguity that surrounds many of its most famous stories. While certain myths have been thoroughly analysed, others remain elusive, with scholars still debating their origins, meanings, and interpretations. One such mystery lies in the myth of the Titans ***. While we know they were the predecessors to the Olympian gods, much about their true nature and their role in the larger cosmic scheme is unclear. The battle between the Titans and Olympians, the Titanomachy ***, is a central myth, yet its origins and symbolic significance have never been fully understood. What were the Titans truly representing? Were they merely embodiments of primal forces, or were they something more complex? Why were the Olympians, led by Zeus, so determined to overthrow them? And what was lost in that cosmic shift from chaos to order? Despite centuries of scholarly interpretation, the myth of the Titans still feels incomplete, like a narrative with chapters lost to time. Another key enigma is the myth of Prometheus ***. While we know that Prometheus defied Zeus to bring fire to humanity and was punished for it, the deeper meaning behind his actions remains a source of mystery. In ancient Greek thought, fire symbolized knowledge, creativity, and life. But what did Prometheus's act of defiance truly signify? Was it an allegory for the human struggle for enlightenment, or does it represent a deeper philosophical conflict between the desire for wisdom and the dangers of overstepping divine authority? Why did Prometheus suffer such a brutal punishment for his actions, while other gods who challenged Zeus were often rewarded? There is a palpable tension between the image of Prometheus as a martyr for humanity and the implications of his actions on the divine order, and these ambiguities continue to provoke questions about the balance between knowledge, power, and consequence. The myth of Orpheus **2 is shrouded in mystery. Orpheus's descent into the underworld to reclaim his wife Eurydice has long been interpreted as a tale about love, loss, and the power of art. But why was it that, in the end, Orpheus failed in his quest? The gods told him not to look back as he led Eurydice from the realm of the dead, yet he did. Was this a simple moral tale about trust and obedience, or is there a deeper, more unsettling message about the nature of art and human desire? Why does Orpheus, a figure of immense musical talent and divine favour, meet such a tragic end? And why, after his death, does his music continue to resonate, even beyond the grave? The unanswered questions surrounding Orpheus suggest a myth that is both personal and cosmic, representing the tension between the human yearning for beauty and the inevitable forces that thwart that quest. Perhaps one of the most enigmatic and unresolved questions in Greek mythology is the role of ***, the Moirai ***, the Fates. The Moirai were the three goddesses who controlled the destinies of all beings, from mortals to gods. While their control over fate is unquestioned, the exact nature of their power is still debated. How could the gods themselves, beings of immense power, be bound by the Moirai's threads? Were the Fates merely passive observers, or did they shape the world according to a plan beyond even the gods' comprehension? Some myths suggest that even the gods were unable to change their own fates, as seen in the tragic destinies of figures like ***, Oedipus ***, and Achilles ***. But if the Moirai were truly all-powerful, why did they allow the gods to manipulate certain aspects of fate? The balance between free will and destiny remains one of the most perplexing aspects of Greek mythology. There is also the question of ***, the underworld, *** itself, ruled by Hades. The depiction of the underworld in myth is vague, with many different accounts of what it entailed. What exactly happens to souls once they enter the underworld? What were the spiritual implications of the journey into the afterlife? In some versions of the myths, the dead could experience eternal suffering, while others are shown as having the possibility of redemption or reincarnation. What, then, was the ultimate fate of the soul in Greek mythology? The underworld serves as a liminal space between life and death, between memory and oblivion, and its fluid, ever-changing representation in the myths hints at the uncertainties the ancient Greeks themselves faced regarding the afterlife. Finally, there are gaps in the historical record of these myths themselves. Some of the stories we know were only preserved through the writings of later generations, often altered, adapted, or completely reinterpreted by the time they reached us. The earliest versions of many myths may have been lost forever, leaving us with fragmented tales that offer tantalizing glimpses into a worldview that is now nearly impossible to reconstruct in its entirety. What stories have we lost to time? What ancient truths and philosophies might have been erased from history, either intentionally or through the ravages of time? As we confront these lingering mysteries of Greek mythology, we are reminded that the myths we know today are only a fraction of a far greater and more complex narrative. Are we truly ready to understand the full scope of these myths, or are there pieces of the puzzle that will forever remain hidden? These unanswered questions are part of what keeps Greek mythology alive, its ability to spark endless curiosity, interpretation, and speculation. Having explored these unresolved mysteries, We will now conclude our journey by reflecting on how these ancient myths, with all their secrets and ambiguities, continue to shape our understanding of life, death, and the human condition. These myths are far from finished, and the final truths that lie hidden within them may continue to unfold for generations to come. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through Greek mythology, it becomes clear that these ancient tales are far more than just stories from a bygone era. They are timeless reflections of the human experience, offering insight into the darkest corners of human nature, the complexities of existence, and the eternal struggle between fate and free will. The myths have shaped not only ancient Greek society, but continue to influence our modern world in profound ways. Are the gods still watching? Have we learned from their mistakes? Or are we doomed to repeat the cycles of myth? Throughout this exploration, we've seen how Greek mythology mirrors our struggles, our desires, and our deepest fears. From the chaotic forces of the Titans to the heroic but flawed figures like Odysseus, these myths embody universal themes of power, sacrifice, love, and the inevitable passage of time. They raise questions about the nature of heroism, the pursuit of knowledge, and the consequences of defying fate. These themes are not confined to the ancient world. They are present in our daily lives, reflected in our own stories, conflicts, and dreams. The gods of Greek mythology, though powerful, are not simply figures to be revered, they are also cautionary tales. They embody the complexity of human emotions, both the grandeur and the folly of our ambitions. Zeus, in his might, represents both the protector of order and the enforcer of tyranny. Hera's jealousy, Poseidon's fury, and Apollo's pride all reflect the darker aspects of power and the fragility of human emotions. The myths teach us that power, whether divine or mortal, is always entwined with responsibility, and that unchecked ambition and pride can lead to ruin. Moreover, these myths continue to resonate because they address the cyclical nature of history and human behavior. The struggles between chaos and order, fate and free will, are not just ancient concerns, they are still very much with us. The rise and fall of empires, the cycle of wars, and the personal battles we face in our own lives all echo the same patterns found in Greek mythology. In the stories of the gods, heroes, and monsters, we see a mirror of ourselves, our own struggles with morality, mortality, and the search for meaning in a chaotic world. But perhaps the most enduring power of Greek myths lies in their ability to evolve. Over time, these stories have been adapted, altered, and even erased to suit the changing values and concerns of different societies. In the ancient world, the gods were seen as all-powerful beings who shaped the destinies of mortals. But in the modern era, the gods have been reinterpreted in more human terms. Figures like Prometheus, once a symbol of defiance against divine tyranny, are now seen as emblems of human aspiration and rebellion against oppressive systems. Myths like the story of Medusa, originally told as a punishment for a woman's victimization, have been reclaimed as stories of empowerment and resistance. The way these myths have been manipulated speaks to the ways in which societies mold their collective identity through the lens of mythology. In ancient Greece, the gods were central to understanding the world, but in today's world, we often look at these myths to understand our own nature. We've moved from a time when humans were subjugated to the whims of gods to a time where we are questioning our role in the cosmos. Are we still at the mercy of higher powers? Or have we, in some ways, become the architects of our own fate? The myths that were once suppressed or altered carry lessons that are still relevant today. They remind us of the consequences of unchecked power, the importance of humility, and the inevitability of fate. Yet, they also encourage us to question our assumptions about destiny and free will. The gods' manipulation of time and fate in these myths may seem distant, but it still reflects our own struggle to understand the forces that shape our lives. Are we simply victims of a larger cosmic order, or do we have the power to shape our own destiny? As we stand on the shoulders of the gods, we must ask ourselves, have we truly learned from their mistakes? Do we still live under their shadow, or have we become the gods of our own fate? The answer is elusive, but perhaps that is the ultimate lesson of Greek mythology, that we are both the architects of our destiny and the victims of forces beyond our control. The myths, with all their unanswered questions and hidden truths, continue to offer us a map, a way of understanding ourselves, our world, and our place in the ever-turning cycles of existence. In the end, the enduring power of Greek myths lies not in their ability to provide clear answers, but in their capacity to provoke thought, reflection, and deeper understanding. The ancient gods and heroes are still with us today, not as figures of worship, but as symbols of the forces, both internal and external, that shape our lives. The mysteries of Greek mythology may never be fully unraveled, but in their ambiguity, they continue to illuminate the complexities of the human experience. And perhaps in the process, we come to understand that the myths themselves are as much a reflection of us as they are of the gods. Greek mythology, in its most familiar form, is dominated by the stories of the gods, heroes, and creatures whose names echo through the halls of history. But within this pantheon, there are certain figures and myths that have been systematically suppressed or erased from the mainstream narrative. These are the stories that were too dangerous, too subversive, or too complex for the powers of ancient Greece to allow them to persist in the public consciousness. Why are some of the most powerful figures in Greek mythology completely erased from our history books? What truths did they threaten to reveal? One of the most prominent figures whose story has been downplayed is Prometheus, the titan who defied Zeus to bring fire to humanity. In the well-known myth, Prometheus steals fire from the gods and gives it to mortals, an act of rebellion against divine authority. In the ancient world, fire symbolized not only physical warmth, but also knowledge, enlightenment, and civilization itself. Prometheus's act was one of profound defiance, an act that empowered humanity but also incited the wrath of Zeus. Yet, despite his central role in many versions of Greek mythology, Prometheus's rebellion represents more than a mere act of disobedience. He is often interpreted as a figure of progress, one who sought to elevate mankind, but in doing so, he disrupted the divine hierarchy. The punishment he endured, being bound to a rock where an eagle would feast on his liver for eternity, was not just a personal torment. It was a symbol of the high cost of defying the gods. Prometheus's story, however, has often been erased or overshadowed. His actions, which threatened the established divine order, could be seen as a challenge to the prevailing social and political structures of ancient Greece. The suppression of Prometheus is, in some ways, a reflection of the desire to maintain the status quo, the god's absolute authority over mortal lives. The power of his story lies not only in his act of rebellion, but in what it suggests about the relationship between power, knowledge, and control. Prometheus reveals the tension between divine law and human progress, a tension that has persisted throughout history, and one that continues to resonate with modern audiences. Another figure whose story has been deliberately minimized is Echidna. The mother of many of the most fearsome creatures in Greek mythology, such as the Hydra Cerberus and the Chimera Echidna herself is often portrayed as a monstrous figure, half woman, half snake, who lurked in the wilderness, far removed from the world of gods and mortals. Her offspring, however, were central to the heroic myths of ancient Greece, often depicted as creatures that tested the strength and courage of heroes. The Nemean lion that Heracles defeated, for example, was one of Echidna's children. Yet despite her significant role in the creation of these mythic beasts, Echidna herself is largely omitted from the more popular retellings of Greek mythology. Her story, though present in older accounts, has often been overshadowed by the more glamorous narratives of gods and heroes. Why was Echidna, a figure who gave birth to some of the most iconic monsters in mythology, so marginalized? Her monstrous form and her connection to chaos and destruction may have been too unsettling for a society that prized order and heroism. Echidna's offspring, after all, were forces that threatened the established cosmic order, forces that existed outside the realm of human control. By erasing her from the main narrative, the ancient Greeks may have sought to eliminate a symbol of chaos that they could not tame or control. Similarly, other figures whose actions threatened the status quo were also erased or minimized. Ariadne. For example, is a figure whose role in the myth of Theseus has been obscured in favor of the heroic narrative of Theseus's triumph over the Minotaur. Ariadne, who aids Theseus in escaping the labyrinth, is often cast aside once she has fulfilled her role. Yet her story is far more complex. She was a princess of Crete, who was abandoned by Theseus after he used her aid to escape. Her betrayal, and eventual redemption through marriage to Dionysus, represents a deeper narrative of power, love, and survival that has been glossed over in favor of Theseus's heroism. Ariadne's story, much like that of other erased figures, carries uncomfortable implications about the roles of women, sacrifice, and agency elements that ancient Greek society may have been unwilling to confront head-on. Why were these figures erased from the popular record? The common thread between these suppressed myths is that they challenged the established order. Prometheus's defiance threatened the divine authority of the gods. Echidna's chaotic offspring symbolized forces beyond human control, and Ariadne's abandonment by Theseus hinted at the darker realities of love and power. These stories, which questioned the balance between power and vulnerability, were uncomfortable for a society that sought to maintain a strict hierarchy, one where gods reigned supreme and heroes triumphed over adversity. In erasing or minimizing these figures, ancient Greek culture sought to preserve the notion that the gods were always in control, that human progress should remain subordinate to divine will, and that the stories of triumph must not be complicated by darker, more subversive truths. What do these erased stories reveal about the ancient Greek worldview? They suggest that the myths were not just stories for entertainment or moral instruction. They were carefully constructed narratives that served to reinforce the political and social structures of the time. The myths that were suppressed were often those that threatened to unravel the neat, heroic tales of divine order. These stories, hidden in the margins of the mythological tradition, reveal a deeper truth, that the gods, for all their power, were not the only forces shaping the universe. The monsters, rebels, and forgotten figures of Greek mythology remind us that the balance between chaos and order, power and vulnerability, is far more complex than the mainstream myths allow. Having uncovered these erased figures and myths, we will now explore the larger implications of these lost stories. What do they tell us about the nature of control, power, and the human desire for knowledge? How do they reflect the societal anxieties of the ancient world, and what can they teach us about our own understanding of history and mythology? Greek mythology, in its most familiar form, is dominated by the stories of the gods, heroes, and creatures whose names echo through the halls of history. But within this pantheon, there are certain figures and myths that have been systematically suppressed or erased from the mainstream narrative. These are the stories that were too dangerous, too subversive, or too complex for the powers of ancient Greece to allow them to persist in the public consciousness. Why are some of the most powerful figures in Greek mythology completely erased from our history books? What truths did they threaten to reveal? One of the most prominent figures whose story has been downplayed is Prometheus the Titan who defied Zeus to bring fire to humanity. In the well-known myth, Prometheus steals fire from the gods and gives it to mortals, an act of rebellion against divine authority. In the ancient world, fire symbolized not only physical warmth, but also knowledge, enlightenment, and civilization itself. Prometheus's act was one of profound defiance, an act that empowered humanity but also incited the wrath of Zeus. Yet, despite his central role in many versions of Greek mythology, Prometheus's rebellion represents more than a mere act of disobedience. He is often interpreted as a figure of progress, one who sought to elevate mankind, but in doing so, he disrupted the divine hierarchy. The punishment he endured, being bound to a rock where an eagle would feast on his liver for eternity, was not just a personal torment. It was a symbol of the high cost of defying the gods. Prometheus's story, however, has often been erased or overshadowed. His actions, which threatened the established divine order, could be seen as a challenge to the prevailing social and political structures of ancient Greece. The suppression of Prometheus is, in some ways, a reflection of the desire to maintain the status quo, the god's absolute authority over mortal lives. The power of his story lies not only in his act of rebellion, but in what it suggests about the relationship between power, knowledge, and control. Prometheus reveals the tension between divine law and human progress, a tension that has persisted throughout history, and one that continues to resonate with modern audiences. Another figure whose story has been deliberately minimized is Echidna. The mother of many of the most fearsome creatures in Greek mythology, such as the Hydra Cerberus and the Chimera Echidna herself is often portrayed as a monstrous figure, half woman, half snake, who lurked in the wilderness, far removed from the world of gods and mortals. Her offspring, however, were central to the heroic myths of ancient Greece, often depicted as creatures that tested the strength and courage of heroes. The Nemean lion that Heracles defeated, for example, was one of Echidna's children. Yet despite her significant role in the creation of these mythic beasts, Echidna herself is largely omitted from the more popular retellings of Greek mythology. Her story, though present in older accounts, has often been overshadowed by the more glamorous narratives of gods and heroes. Why was Echidna, a figure who gave birth to some of the most iconic monsters in mythology, so marginalized? Her monstrous form and her connection to chaos and destruction may have been too unsettling for a society that prized order and heroism. Echidna's offspring, after all, were forces that threatened the established cosmic order, forces that existed outside the realm of human control. By erasing her from the main narrative, the ancient Greeks may have sought to eliminate a symbol of chaos that they could not tame or control. Similarly, other figures whose actions threatened the status quo were also erased or minimized. Ariadne. For example, is a figure whose role in the myth of Theseus has been obscured in favor of the heroic narrative of Theseus's triumph over the Minotaur. Ariadne, who aids Theseus in escaping the labyrinth, is often cast aside once she has fulfilled her role. Yet her story is far more complex. She was a princess of Crete, who was abandoned by Theseus after he used her aid to escape. Her betrayal, and eventual redemption through marriage to Dionysus, represents a deeper narrative of power, love, and survival that has been glossed over in favor of Theseus's heroism. Ariadne's story, much like that of other erased figures, carries uncomfortable implications about the roles of women, sacrifice, and agency elements that ancient Greek society may have been unwilling to confront head-on. Why were these figures erased from the popular record? The common thread between these suppressed myths is that they challenged the established order. Prometheus's defiance threatened the divine authority of the gods. Echidna's chaotic offspring symbolized forces beyond human control, and Ariadne's abandonment by Theseus hinted at the darker realities of love and power. These stories, which questioned the balance between power and vulnerability, were uncomfortable for a society that sought to maintain a strict hierarchy, one where gods reigned supreme and heroes triumphed over adversity. In erasing or minimizing these figures, ancient Greek culture sought to preserve the notion that the gods were always in control, that human progress should remain subordinate to divine will, and that the stories of triumph must not be complicated by darker, more subversive truths. What do these erased stories reveal about the ancient Greek worldview? They suggest that the myths were not just stories for entertainment or moral instruction. They were carefully constructed narratives that served to reinforce the political and social structures of the time. The myths that were suppressed were often those that threatened to unravel the neat, heroic tales of divine order. These stories, hidden in the margins of the mythological tradition, reveal a deeper truth, that the gods, for all their power, were not the only forces shaping the universe. The monsters, rebels, and forgotten figures of Greek mythology remind us that the balance between chaos and order, power and vulnerability, is far more complex than the mainstream myths allow. Having uncovered these erased figures and myths, we will now explore the larger implications of these lost stories. What do they tell us about the nature of control, power, and the human desire for knowledge? How do they reflect the societal anxieties of the ancient world, and what can they teach us about our own understanding of history and mythology? Greek mythology, in its most familiar form, is dominated by the stories of the gods, heroes, and creatures whose names echo through the halls of history. But within this pantheon, there are certain figures and myths that have been systematically suppressed or erased from the mainstream narrative. These are the stories that were too dangerous, too subversive, or too complex for the powers of ancient Greece to allow them to persist in the public consciousness. Why are some of the most powerful figures in Greek mythology completely erased from our history books? What truths did they threaten to reveal? One of the most prominent figures whose story has been downplayed is Prometheus ***, the titan who defied Zeus to bring fire to humanity. In the well-known myth, Prometheus steals fire from the gods and gives it to mortals, an act of rebellion against divine authority. In the ancient world, fire symbolized not only physical warmth, but also knowledge, enlightenment, and civilization itself. Prometheus's act was one of profound defiance, an act that empowered humanity but also incited the wrath of Zeus. Yet, despite his central role in many versions of Greek mythology, Prometheus's rebellion represents more than a mere act of disobedience. He is often interpreted as a figure of progress, one who sought to elevate mankind, but in doing so, he disrupted the divine hierarchy. The punishment he endured, being bound to a rock where an eagle would feast on his liver for eternity, was not just a personal torment. It was a symbol of the high cost of defying the gods. Prometheus's story, however, has often been erased or overshadowed. His actions, which threatened the established divine order, could be seen as a challenge to the prevailing social and political structures of ancient Greece. The suppression of Prometheus is, in some ways, a reflection of the desire to maintain the status quo, the god's absolute authority over mortal lives. The power of his story lies not only in his act of rebellion, but in what it suggests about the relationship between power, knowledge, and control. Prometheus reveals the tension between divine law and human progress, a tension that has persisted throughout history, and one that continues to resonate with modern audiences. Another figure whose story has been deliberately minimized is Echidna, the mother of many of the most fearsome creatures in Greek mythology, such as the Hydra Cerberus and the Chimera Echidna herself is often portrayed as a monstrous figure, half woman, half snake, who lurked in the wilderness, far removed from the world of gods and mortals. Her offspring, however, were central to the heroic myths of ancient Greece, often depicted as creatures that tested the strength and courage of heroes. The Nemean lion that Heracles defeated, for example, was one of Echidna's children. Yet despite her significant role in the creation of these mythic beasts, Echidna herself is largely omitted from the more popular retellings of Greek mythology. Her story, though present in older accounts, has often been overshadowed by the more glamorous narratives of gods and heroes. Why was Echidna, a figure who gave birth to some of the most iconic monsters in mythology, so marginalized? Her monstrous form and her connection to chaos and destruction may have been too unsettling for a society that prized order and heroism. Echidna's offspring, after all, were forces that threatened the established cosmic order, forces that existed outside the realm of human control. By erasing her from the main narrative, the ancient Greeks may have sought to eliminate a symbol of chaos that they could not tame or control. Similarly, other figures whose actions threatened the status quo were also erased or minimized. Ariadne. For example, is a figure whose role in the myth of Theseus has been obscured in favor of the heroic narrative of Theseus's triumph over the Minotaur. Ariadne, who aids Theseus in escaping the labyrinth, is often cast aside once she has fulfilled her role. Yet her story is far more complex. She was a princess of Crete who was abandoned by Theseus after he used her aid to escape. Her betrayal and eventual redemption through marriage to Dionysus represents a deeper narrative of power, love, and survival that has been glossed over in favor of Theseus's heroism. Ariadne's story, much like that of other erased figures, carries uncomfortable implications about the roles of women, sacrifice, and agency elements that ancient Greek society may have been unwilling to confront head-on. Why were these figures erased from the popular record? The common thread between these suppressed myths is that they challenged the established order. Prometheus's defiance threatened the divine authority of the gods. Echidna's chaotic offspring symbolized forces beyond human control, and Ariadne's abandonment by Theseus hinted at the darker realities of love and power. These stories, which questioned the balance between power and vulnerability, were uncomfortable for a society that sought to maintain a strict hierarchy, one where gods reigned supreme and heroes triumphed over adversity. In erasing or minimizing these figures, ancient Greek culture sought to preserve the notion that the gods were always in control, that human progress should remain subordinate to divine will, and that the stories of triumph must not be complicated by darker, more subversive truths. What do these erased stories reveal about the ancient Greek worldview? They suggest that the myths were not just stories for entertainment or moral instruction. They were carefully constructed narratives that served to reinforce the political and social structures of the time. The myths that were suppressed were often those that threatened to unravel the neat, heroic tales of divine order. These stories, hidden in the margins of the mythological tradition, reveal a deeper truth, that the gods, for all their power, were not the only forces shaping the universe. The monsters, rebels, and forgotten figures of Greek mythology remind us that the balance between chaos and order, power and vulnerability, is far more complex than the mainstream myths allow. Having uncovered these erased figures and myths, we will now explore the larger implications of these lost stories. What do they tell us about the nature of control, power, and the human desire for knowledge? How do they reflect the societal anxieties of the ancient world, and what can they teach us about our own understanding of history and mythology? Throughout our journey into the depths of Greek mythology, we have uncovered forgotten myths, hidden truths, and the complexities of divine intervention that have shaped not only the ancient Greek world, but also our modern understanding of life, power, and fate. What if everything we thought we knew about the gods was an illusion? Could the hidden truths of their actions still shape our world today? As we revisit the suppressed and erased stories, figures like Prometheus, Echidna, and Ariadne, whose roles were downplayed or erased entirely, we begin to see a different picture of the gods and their relationship with mortals. These forgotten figures, often dismissed in favor of more mainstream deities, reveal a darker, more complex truth about the divine. Far from being perfect, all-powerful beings, the gods of Greek mythology were driven by fear, insecurity, and even jealousy. Zeus***, though revered as king of the gods, was profoundly anxious about his own mortality, attempting to escape the prophecy that foretold his fall. Similarly, Hera's jealousy and vengeful actions against the mortal women Zeus loved show the darker, more punitive side of divine power. The gods' interventions in the lives of mortals were not acts of benevolence, but often reflections of their own struggles for control, validation, and the preservation of their divine authority. The hidden truths of Greek mythology also lie in the gods' often chaotic relationships with time and fate. The gods were not immune to the forces they wielded over mortals. Prometheus's defiance of Zeus, a story often romanticized as an act of rebellion for humanity's benefit, reveals a deeper truth. His actions were driven by a desire for control over the divine order. The gods, like mortals, feared the inevitable, whether it was Kronos' overthrow, Zeus's anxious attempts to avoid his downfall, or the Moirai***'s uncontrollable influence on the fates of both gods and mortals. These prophecies that foretold the fall of the gods were not merely the mechanisms of fate, but symbols of their greatest vulnerability. Despite their immense power, the gods were caught in an inescapable cycle of trying to control the uncontrollable, fearing what they could not dominate. Perhaps the most profound realization we can draw from these hidden truths is that the gods were not infallible. They were, in many ways, reflections of human nature, powerful, flawed, and driven by fear of loss and change. Their actions, interventions, and punishments were often rooted in their own psychological insecurities. Ares***, the god of war, was consumed with bloodlust. Yet, beneath this exterior of strength, he also embodied the chaos of human conflict, an instability the gods could neither prevent nor fully control. The gods' tendency to use mortals as pawns, manipulating their fates for personal gain or out of spite, raises unsettling questions about the true nature of divine authority. Far from omnipotent, the gods were figures locked in eternal struggles with themselves, driven by the same fears and desires that plagued mortals. The gods' fear of their own fallibility mirrors the human condition. The constant tension between fate and free will, order and chaos, divine authority and human agency, is not merely a mythological concern, it is a reflection of the real-world struggles we continue to face. In many ways, the gods' actions in the myths are not just reflections of ancient societal anxieties, but also mirrors of our own fears about control, destiny, and the inevitability of change. The gods, in their efforts to maintain power, reveal the same fears of loss and failure that we confront in our own lives, whether in the pursuit of power, love, or legacy. By synthesizing these revelations, we gain a new understanding of Greek mythology, not as stories about all-powerful beings, but as cautionary tales about the complexities of existence. The gods' interventions in mortal affairs, their obsession with controlling fate, and their own insecurities reveal a deeper truth. The myths are not just about divine powers, they are about the human experience, our struggles with power, and our quest for meaning. The gods were not mere figures of worship, but reflections of ourselves, embodying the forces that shape our lives and histories. Now that we've uncovered the truths about the gods, their fallibility, and the existential lessons embedded in their myths, we must turn our focus to their relevance today. How do these myths continue to shape our understanding of the world? How do the hidden truths of these ancient stories continue to influence our culture, society, and philosophy? These questions will guide us as we explore how the gods' stories live on, shaping modern narratives and offering us valuable lessons in the present day. Greek mythology has left an indelible mark on modern culture, shaping the way we understand not only history and ancient beliefs, but also the world we live in today. These myths, woven through literature, art, politics, and even popular culture, continue to resonate with us, offering timeless lessons on power, fate, heroism, and the complexity of human nature. What if the myths you've read about are not just stories from the past, but a roadmap to the future? How are the gods and heroes still influencing us today? From the *** conflict between order and chaos *** to the *** dangers of hubris ***, and the perennial question of *** fate versus free will ***. These themes persist in shaping the narratives that dominate modern discourse. The stories of the gods and heroes have been adapted and reinterpreted across centuries, and their impact can be seen in everything from the structure of contemporary literature and cinema to our political and philosophical outlooks. One of the most enduring themes in Greek mythology is the tension between order and chaos, a dichotomy that still plays out on the global stage today. In myths like the *** Titanomachy ***, where Zeus overthrows his father Kronos to bring about a new order, we see the conflict between chaotic primal forces and structured governance. This narrative mirrors modern struggles for power, whether in politics, corporate structures, or even global diplomacy. The idea that order is continually threatened by chaos, and that the powers that establish control must constantly fight to maintain it, remains deeply relevant today. The eternal battle between chaos and order informs much of our political and social systems, as leaders seek to impose structure in an ever-changing, unpredictable world. Hubris. The excessive pride or arrogance that leads to the downfall of both gods and mortals is another theme that continues to play a significant role in modern society. Arachne who challenged Athena to a weaving contest and was transformed into a spider for her insolence, or Icarus who flew too close to the sun despite his father's warnings, are just two examples of characters who fall victim to their own hubris. This theme resonates strongly today in both personal and societal contexts. Whether in the realm of politics, where leaders often make overconfident decisions that lead to their downfall, or in the business world, where unchecked ambition can lead to catastrophic consequences, the warning against hubris is more pertinent than ever. The myth of hubris serves as a cautionary tale for modern society, reminding us that arrogance and overconfidence can blind us to our limitations, ultimately causing our undoing. Moreover, the concept of fate versus free will explored in numerous Greek myths, continues to influence modern thought. The gods' constant manipulation of mortal lives, as seen in the tragic tales of Oedipus or Achilles raises questions about the extent to which individuals control their own destiny. In the modern world, the debate about fate and free will remains central to our understanding of the human experience. Whether we believe our lives are shaped by external forces, like the gods in mythology, or by our own actions, the tension between predestination and personal agency continues to shape our personal narratives and societal beliefs. This theme challenges us to reflect on our own ability to shape our futures and the role that external forces, be they societal, familial, or even genetic, play in our lives. Greek mythology has also had a profound impact on art, literature, and cinema, where its themes and characters continue to be reimagined. The *** hero's journey ***, exemplified by figures like *** Heracles *** Odysseus and Perseus ***, has influenced countless modern stories of adventure and personal growth. From *** Star Wars *** to The Lord of the Rings ***. These modern narratives draw directly from the archetypal hero's journey first outlined in Greek myths. The structure of overcoming trials, gaining wisdom, and confronting one's fate remains a universal template for storytelling. Similarly, the portrayal of gods as flawed, powerful beings, as seen in modern films like Time's Thor, Time's Wonder Woman ***, reflects the same complexities found in the ancient myths, where divine figures are not infallible but are driven by jealousy, pride, and fear. These myths also continue to shape modern political and philosophical thought. The tension between the individual and the collective, as seen in the myths of gods and mortals, has informed contemporary discussions on governance, justice, and power. The ***, Greek tragedies ***, which often focused on the interplay between human agency and divine will, provide timeless insights into the nature of suffering, justice, and moral choice. In modern political debates, we can trace the echoes of these ancient stories in the way societies grapple with questions of power, authority, and morality. The legacy of Greek mythology extends beyond cultural and philosophical realms. The myths have been used to justify political power and social order for centuries. From the Renaissance to modern times, as rulers and leaders invoke divine favor or divine right to legitimize their authority. The stories of the gods have been reinterpreted in countless ways, sometimes to support existing hierarchies, and sometimes to challenge them. *** Prometheus, ***, in his defiance of Zeus, is a symbol of rebellion against oppressive systems, while the heroism of *** Theseus or Perseus represents the ideal of overcoming great odds to restore balance and order to society. As we look at the enduring influence of Greek mythology, we realize that these ancient stories are not just remnants of a distant past, but living, breathing elements of our culture. They inform our narratives, shape our understanding of power, justice, and morality, and offer profound lessons about the human condition. The gods may have fallen from their thrones in the myths, but their stories remain embedded in the very fabric of our world. Having examined the ongoing relevance of these myths, we now turn to the final reflection on what they can teach us about our future. The lessons they impart about human nature, divine power, and the cyclical nature of time are not just relics of the past. They offer insights into how we can navigate our own struggles, challenges, and the complex web of fate and free will that continues to shape our lives. The gods may be distant, but their stories remain close at hand, guiding us through the complexities of existence. Greek mythology is not simply a collection of ancient stories about gods, heroes, and monsters. At its core, it is a profound reflection of the human condition, posing deep philosophical questions that still resonate with us today. What if understanding these ancient stories could help us navigate our own existence? Could the Greek myths hold the answers to some of life's most profound questions? Take, for example, the myth of *** Odysseus ***. His long journey home after the Trojan War, fraught with trials and temptations, is much more than an adventure story. It is a philosophical exploration of *** identity, *** self-determination, *** and *** the consequences of our choices, ***. Odysseus is a hero, but he is not perfect. He is driven by desire, curiosity, and sometimes pride. His journey is marked not only by physical challenges but by internal struggles, questioning his identity and purpose. His encounter with the Cyclops his dealings with the sorceress Circe and his descent into the underworld reflect not just his efforts to return home, but his search for meaning in an uncertain world. The story of Odysseus forces us to confront questions about the nature of the journey itself. Is it the destination that defines us, or is it the path we take and the choices we make along the way? Odysseus, with his flaws and his wisdom, embodies the existential reality that we are all navigating our own journeys, constantly questioning our choices and the meaning of our actions. The myth of Icarus offers another reflection on human ambition, self-determination, and the consequences of reckless desire. Icarus, defying the warnings of his father Daedalus, flies too close to the sun, causing his wings to melt and leading to his tragic fall. This myth, like many in Greek mythology, raises essential questions about ambition, and hubris the excessive pride that often leads to downfall. Icarus's fate is a timeless reminder of the dangers of overreaching, of pursuing goals without consideration of the limitations of our own nature. The story asks us to examine our own ambitions. How far should we push ourselves in pursuit of greatness? And when does our ambition become self-destructive? The tragedy of Icarus is not simply about a young man's mistake. It is about the timeless human struggle to balance desire with wisdom, to recognize the boundaries of our reach and the consequences of ignoring them. Greek mythology also delves deeply into questions of mortality, and the impermanence of human life. In stories like that of Achilles we see a hero who is destined to die young, yet whose name lives on forever. Achilles is granted near invincibility, but cannot escape the prophecy that his life will be short. This juxtaposition of immortality and fame and the fleeting nature of life itself speaks to the universal human concern with legacy and death . Achilles' story forces us to confront the inevitability of our own mortality and to question what we leave behind. How much should we focus on achieving greatness, knowing that time is limited? What is the meaning of life when all is ultimately transient? The gods, despite their power, are not immune to these existential struggles. Their own vulnerability, as seen in the prophecies surrounding their fates, serves as a reminder that even the divine cannot escape the forces of time. The myths of the gods themselves are rich with philosophical lessons about power and responsibility . While they are often portrayed as all-powerful beings, their stories reveal their vulnerability, fear, and desire for control. Zeus the king of the gods, is not just a figure of authority, he is also a figure tormented by fear of his own downfall, which drives him to act in ways that often lead to conflict and suffering. The gods' struggles with each other, such as Hera's jealousy, or Poseidon's rage, mirror the human condition in their reflection of insecurities, ambitions, and the need for validation. The gods are not merely distant figures of worship. They are projections of human desires and failings, and their actions highlight the complexities of power and the psychological toll of leadership. Greek mythology, then, serves as a mirror to our own lives, offering timeless wisdom about the nature of self-determination, the dangers of hubris, the inevitability of mortality, and the complexities of power, The myths are not just ancient stories. They are philosophical reflections on what it means to be human. They challenge us to question our own motivations, our struggles with ambition, and our understanding of fate. The gods, with all their flaws and vulnerabilities, are a reminder that even the most powerful beings are bound by the same existential dilemmas that we face. As we reflect on the philosophical implications of these myths, we come to understand that they are not just relics of the past, but living stories that continue to shape our perceptions of ourselves and the world. They provide us with a framework for understanding the complexities of the human experience, offering insights into how we navigate our own choices, relationships, and aspirations. The gods, heroes, and monsters of Greek mythology are not just distant figures of a forgotten world, they are reflections of the universal truths that govern us all. Having explored the deep philosophical lessons of Greek mythology, we now shift our focus to the final reflection on the enduring power of these ancient stories. What have they taught us about the human condition, and how can we apply these timeless lessons to our own lives and the world we live in today? These myths, with their complexity and their contradictions, remain as relevant today as they were in the ancient world, offering us a guide to understanding our place in the world and the forces that shape our destiny. What if the secrets we've uncovered today are only the beginning? Could there still be more to discover in the depths of Greek mythology? Throughout this journey, we have unearthed lost myths, suppressed knowledge, and the hidden motivations of gods and heroes. We've explored the complex relationships between fate, power, and mortality, revealing the gods not as infallible beings but as flawed entities struggling with their own existential dilemmas. Yet, as we reflect on all we've learned, a lingering question remains. Have we truly uncovered all the secrets? Despite the many revelations, Greek mythology is vast, intricate, and multifaceted. Even now, some stories remain fragmented or obscured by time, and new interpretations continue to emerge. Some truths, it seems, may always remain beyond our reach. Could there be hidden meanings that only the gods themselves fully understand? Truths too complex or dangerous for mortals to grasp? Perhaps the true depth of Greek mythology is something we are only beginning to explore. The mystery of these ancient stories will never fully fade. As we conclude this exploration, we leave you with this thought. The myths are not static. They are living, evolving, and open to endless discovery. The journey through their depths may never truly end. And so, we are left with a lingering sense of wonder, knowing that there are still many secrets waiting to be uncovered in the shadows of the gods.